Okay, this is number 3 on the Tuesday 331 homework. So here we go. Vertex. Well, first of all, A is -2, B is -14, and C is -23. So my vertex to find x, it's -b over 2a. So it's going to be +14 over 2 times -2. So it's 14 over 4, simplify, which is 7/2. If you want to write that as 3.5, you can, if that makes you feel better, because it's a terminating decimal. The axis of symmetry, remember you just found that, it's x equals 3.5. Alright, back up to here. To find the y, remember, you have to put 7/2 or 3.5, however you want to write it, into the actual equation. So it's going to be messy, but we'll do what we can. So give me a minute, I'm going to type this in. 3.5 squared times 2 minus 14 times 3.5 minus 23. So I got -47.5. Holy moly. I think I did something wrong. Alright. 14. Oh, it was a negative. Alright. Were you screaming at me negative? Okay, so all these should be negatives. Hey, I'm not going to refilm. I think it's good that you see me mess up. Alright, so let me retype that in. So again, our x value is -3.5. And our axis of symmetry is x equals -3.5. So let's try that again. -3.5 squared times -2 minus 14 times, oh shoot, I'm really looking. I know you can't see what I'm typing, but okay. Minus 14 times -3.5 and then minus 23. How about 1.5? Does that sound better to people? I just did that so poorly. I want to just check it one more time before we do this whole problem, and then we're like, oh hey, what do you know, Mrs. Swanson screwed up again. 1.5, wonderful. All right, so moving on, let's see what else I can screw up here. Other questions, do we have a max or a min? I forget what order I asked it in, but so again, your A is negative, so that means it's going to open down. So you have a max, and it's at your vertex of -3.5, 1.5. I'm sorry, it goes blurry. All right. For part D, does it open up or down? We just determined it's opening down. Okay, your domain. Again, this is my 3rd video on this worksheet. If you went back and watched the first one, we talked about how for all of these, it is all reals. All the time for these, because you can put any number in for x and get an answer. For a range, remember, as a quick visual, this is opening down. So this right here is your highest y value. Everything else is below it. So remember, this is the point. I'm going to graph it better later. But 3.5, 1.5. So that means all the y values are 1.5 or less. So our range is y is less than or equal to 1.5. The y-intercept, remember I always comment, I think that's the easiest one. You're basically putting in 0 for x, but what happens when you do that? You get -23. So 0, -23. Remember, write it as an ordered pair, and you're not going to be able to fit it on the graph that I gave you, so don't worry about that. Now for your x-intercept, you're putting 0 in for y. This is what we did all last unit, solving for x, okay? And remember, we could do square roots, but you should tell me, no, I can't do that, because I have a b term, so can't do that. You could do completing the square. There were a handful of you who liked that. You could do quadratic formula, or you could try to factor. I'm thinking about factoring right now. I don't think this is going to factor. I'm going to go for the quadratic formula. All right, so -b. So 14 plus or minus the square root of -14 squared minus 4, times a times c all over 2a. This is not fun writing on the end of the paper here. All right, so 14 plus or minus. I'm going to put this into my calculator. -14 squared minus 4 times -2 times -23. You should get a +12. I'm sorry, I need to go like this. Okay, so we have 14 plus or minus √12 all over -4. Yes, you can simplify radical 12, but for our purposes right now, all we care about are what are these two numbers actually as a decimal. So you have 14 plus √12. What I'm saying is don't waste your time to simplify the radicals in this case, because we want to know, I'm sorry, that should be a minus, because we want to know what are these two numbers so that we can actually plot them. So I'm going to put into my calculator 14 plus √12. I'm going to hit enter for this. And then I hit divide by negative 4. And this gives me negative 4.366, and it goes on. So we'll say negative 4.37. Now for the other one, I do 14 minus the square root of 12, hit enter, and then hit divide by negative 4. I'm going to get negative 2.63397. I'm going to say negative 2.63. Okay, so what does that mean? It means I have two x-intercepts. Again, because your discriminant right there is positive. And how do you write them? As an ordered pair. Do not combine them into one ordered pair. You have negative 4.370 and negative 2.630. Okay, now on to the graph. Oh, I have a lot of work going on answering a lot of people's questions. Okay, so I'll try to mimic the graph that you have on your worksheet here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5. What did they go by? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's plot what we have. We have our vertex at, oh, and it goes up a little bit. 1, 2. All right, so our vertex is at negative 3.5, 1.5. Okay, you also have your axis of symmetry. Remember, that's an imaginary line at x equals negative 3.5. It's a vertical line. Other things that we know, the y-intercept, we talked about, that's not going to fit on the graph that we have. So we'll omit that for now. You have your two x-intercepts that we just found, negative 4.37, so approximate that, and then negative 2.63. And these actually are the same distance from your axis of symmetry. Now, it would be nice if our graph could fit on the y-intercept. Sorry, I'm trying to make this not blurry. But the graph we gave you wasn't very good. So in this case, we need one more point to reflect. So let's pick negative 3. Why? Because that's really close to the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to just put this into the equation. Hopefully I can do it right. All right, and so let's see here. So we have 9 times negative 2 minus 14 times negative 3 minus 23. So I'm going to get 1. So I have the point negative 3, positive 1. Now we've talked about the axis of symmetry here. So this is a half a unit away to 3.5. So what does this reflect to? Again, it's not drawn to scale. This is the point 4, negative 4, comma 1. You have your 5-point requirement for me. Make sure it looks rounded at the top. And there's your graph.